PolipedeWorks here, coming at you with One Piece 1081, Kuzan, the 10th captain of the Blackbeard Pirates. We do not have a cover story this week, but we have a very interesting color spread. We have all the boys of the Straw Hat Pirates taking a snooze with some squirrels who are collecting various berries and nuts, and they all have these cute little knapsacks. What's very interesting about this is that, first of all, Sanji is the only one that is awake, and he is reading a strange book called Cocking. I think it's supposed to spell cooking because it has a fork on the cover, and cooking as a pun on having the word king in it because it has a crown on the spine of the book. So Cook King is probably what's being meant here, but who's to say? I guess we shall find out when the volume comes out. The squirrel is also reading the book with him, which is pretty cute. Now, a very interesting thing that no one's going to notice but me probably. Usopp, right? He's sleeping with the squirrel. The squirrel is turned into him and is sleeping on his arm. This is a very unique pose because no one else is sort of friendly relationship with the squirrel in this color spread. I made a video, and I'll put a note about it here, called Usopp Hammer, and that is about Usopp potentially getting a squirrel companion in Elbaf, and it goes into a lot of Norse mythology and Hammer lore about Usopp. So if you want to know more about that, check that video out. I think this is a big clue as to what's coming up later. But yeah, those are my thoughts on that. Moving on into the chapter, the boys come in on Garp's ship after Garp has devastated Full Island. Prince Groose makes a bed of clay to soften the fall of the ship with a ability called Clay Ordination, which further points out what I said about him, I believe, in the 1080 video, that he is just like Dolphy, just like Mr. 3, just like Cracker. He is a paramecia that generates a substance. We didn't see that quite in full in 1080. We kind of saw when he made the little golem guy, but no, this just further confirms that he is of the same ilk as those guys, which is cool. Apparently the devastation caused by Garp is him being rusty, which is interesting. Okay, so Kobe is running to safety and Hibari is right behind him. Hibari is frozen immediately. It's very spooky how she's just frozen and no one notices for a second, but who freezes her? No other than Kuzan. Kuzan shows up. The goons of Full Island call him captain, which is a big hint of his new position in the Blackbeard Pirates. And he says that it would be a bad look if Teach were to find out that Kobe escaped in his absence. We then get a flashback of 2 years ago where Kuzan actually meets up with Blackbeard. He's chilling in a bar, and he has already frozen Blackbeard's boys when Blackbeard shows up to the island. Situations are pretty tense at the moment, and then they burst out laughing as they're sharing a drink. He's unfrozen Sanwan Wolf and the rest of the guys. But yeah, he calls him Ice Pop, at least in the translation I'm reading, which is a very loopy thing to say to Kuzan. I like that a lot. Kuzan's laugh is also da ha ha. I don't know if that's new. I don't ever remember seeing him laugh, but maybe that's new. So he's joking about his conversation with Aki Inu to the Blackbeard Pirates as he's recounting his fight with him. So what's interesting here about this panel is that Catherine Devon looks like a young Big Mom here. She's got the hat. She's got the whole get up that Big Mom had back in the day. What's also is very interesting too is that she's got patterned pants. Not well spoken about signature of Teach because he's always had patterned pants even back in Jaya. Remember those green ones he had? So yeah, that's a Blackbeard fit that she's got on. Very interesting. Sort of like a Blackbeard X Big Mom combination of fits she's rocking, which I can dig. I can dig that a lot. Also, Lafitte is here. Lafitte is actually in this group of guys. I believe it's actually everyone because we see Doc Q a little earlier in the crowd of the guys who are frozen. So yeah, the whole gang is actually here at this bar. And then Kuzan goes on to further explain that, yeah, his leg was taken off by Aki Inu in the fight, and he's not sure what injuries Aki Inu has, but he's sure he's pretty beat up. It's not really clear if Aki Inu actually took that much damage. I know he has a scar from the fight, but yeah, it's weird. It seems as though Kuzan made it out a lot worse than Aki Inu. Very odd. But they talk about the man marked by flame. Burgess explains that Big Mom and Kaido both have red poneglyphs. Blackbeard then says there are 2 up for grabs. And we heard a rumor that the man marked by flames has one. Kuzan jokes that, oh, I may be the man marked by flames. Only for Vasco Shot, who does not have his devil fruit at this time. So they haven't gone devil fruit hunting just yet. And I can tell this because his nose is not reddened here. In chapter 1080, his appearance is significantly different than what it is here. You know what's very funny about this entire exchange? This is the first time, I think, we've ever seen the Blackbeard Pirates, 1, together as a group just chilling out, and 2, actually exchanging words, and we get like a bit of a scope of their personality. It's very cool. It's very cool indeed. Lafitte goes on to say, ho ho ho, that man can be found on a pitch black ship, and anyone who apparently goes near that ship is caught up by giant whirlpools, and he hypothesizes that this man could have some sort of devil fruit ability that causes whirlpools, which would be kind of interesting because I don't think there has been a devil fruit power other than, say, Kuzan's that can affect the ocean directly. The only other one I can think of is Oven sending his heat missiles through the water. But actually affecting the water in that way, I don't really think so. I guess another one could be, too, is that Whitebeard and by extension now Teach can cause giant tsunamis by the use of their quake powers. So I guess it's not uncommon, but making a whirlpool sounds very specific to me. But moving on, Shiryu further expresses his disillusionment with the government, which is very in character for him because he was a former warden, as we know. But then Kuzan goes on to say, the poneglyph hold nothing but bad memories for me because of the whole Ohara incident. And then he kind of goes a little bit into his backstory, which makes me think maybe the man marked by Burns isn't Saul. Because he mentions Robin and he mentions Saul and his allusion to a flashback, which Burgess wants to hear nothing of because he's like, what's with the sob story, which is very funny. Yeah, that's super interesting. Now, what happens next is even more interesting. Lafitte whispers to Blackbeard, hey, Commodore, what do you want to do? His power could be quite useful. Should we steal it? Lafitte might be my favorite Blackbeard pirate because Lafitte was the guy, if you recall, who actually nominated Teach way back in the day for Warlord candidacy when he showed up at Marineford when the Warlords were having their meeting. Lafitte has always been that go-getter, that front man, that wingman. He is amazing. I love Lafitte. Lafitte is that dude. He is always there. Yet he's not present for a lot of these like big climactic fights, like the Law one, which we're going to talk about in this chapter, and like the storming of Amazon Lily. He was there at Marineford and he was there at Impel Down. But yeah, he's kind of been out of sync a lot with the rest of the group. Oh, he wasn't there for the Ace fight either. He wasn't there when Blackbeard fought Ace. So that's really interesting. But moving on, a small fight ensues because Kuzan overhears Lafitte and Blackbeard's conversation. And we get a sort of cartoon zoom out of the bar rocking and rolling back and forth as Kuzan freezes both Avala Pizarro and Vasco Shot in retaliation. And Teach is like, whoa, bro, whoa, hold on there. Would you like to join my crew? And then someone says, Captain, are you nuts? I believe that's Lafitte, but yeah. And then Blackbeard actually tries to reason with Kuzan and says, you're basically out of a job. You got no other prospects. The Guardians of Justice have abandoned you. So what's next? Kuzan's like, well, why do you think a couple of drinks are going to win me over? Blackbeard breaks down what it means to be a pirate to him. He basically says that all pirates have their agenda and seek to profit from them. They're not just a bunch of bumpkins bumbling around the ocean. And I guess this sort of spark of ambition does presumably get Kuzan to join his ranks. But if I were to just stop things for a second, you know what's so weird about this, especially what happens later? I'm wondering why it wasn't bigger news way back in Dressrosa. Or you could say like at the end of Punk Hazard, because Kuzan shows up at the end of Punk Hazard to save Smoker from Doflamingo, right? What's so weird is that when Burgess unveils himself to not be Mr. Store, but Burgess, it's so interesting that when the 10th Titanic captain thing is announced with his unveiling, that Kuzan isn't remarked to be a member, because later Blackbeard mentioned Kuzan in his conversation, right, and says that you really can't trust him. So I'm wondering how real is this rise to captainhood is for Kuzan, or is this just all a big undercover plan? Okay, so then getting back to the chapter, a fight properly breaks out between Kuzan and Garp. Kuzan says that he's always admired Garp because he's always done what he wants to do. But now he's doing what he wants to do, and he encapsulates Garp in ice via using Ice Ball. Garp breaks out of it no problem. This is also when we get the Oda box stating that the 10th captain of the Blackbeard Pirates is indeed Kuzan. Just like Whitebeard, Garp breaks out of that ice no problem, calls Kuzan an idiot, grabs him by the face using arm-in hockey, and chucks him down to the ground with enough force, I guess, to make a hole in the island. And Garp calls this move Blue Hole. I'm guessing he's chucking him so hard that he goes through the island. Not sure, but if he hits the water, of course, that wouldn't affect Kuzan because he could just freeze it immediately. So yeah, a fight is breaking out between Kuzan and Garp. And Kuzan is also a little peeved about Garp's resolve to kill his former protege in order to save his new one. So yeah, we'll see what happens there. But we now cut to Winter Island, where Law and Blackbeard were fighting. All right. So we get a very sad panel of Law's discarded hat and Blackbeard huffing and puffing and covered in blood. Blackbeard is seemingly victorious as he says, "You can't even call yourselves pirates anymore, let alone escape." Much like Broggy and Dory splitting the Victoria Punk, and much like Shanks getting rid of Kid, we have the Polar Tang, the submarine owned by the Heart Pirates, destroyed underwater. We see a few Heart Pirates scattered about, all their supplies drifting down to the bottom of the ocean. And we see John Bart just decimated as the biggest figure here floating in the ocean, which makes sense because he's the only Heart Pirate other than BEPO with a significantly different design. So yeah, he's an important person to make note of. But yeah, the Polar Tang is sinking to the floor below. So this is the second super rookie who has reached a bounty of 3 billion to be decimated by a current Yonko. So yeah, tough luck on that. I don't feel as bad for the Polar Tang, if I'm being honest, because it doesn't carry the amount of emotional weight that the Victoria Punk did. Tough luck, Law. I don't feel as bad for you. We see Law and BEPO decimated. The owners of the 100 hearts that you stole at Rockyport are still living on Pirate Island. I bet they'd be thrilled. If I bring them your heart, we'll have a toast. This is what Blackbeard says to Law, recalling what he did to actually become a warlord back in the day. He stole the hearts of all the guys on Rockyport, during the Rockyport incident. And then we get a little flashback from BEPO, thinking about Chomper. And he says, "You really made these?" And Chomper says in BEPO's mind, "I can't guarantee it'll work, okay?" Then Blackbeard goes on to gloat and say, "Oh, what should we do with the Op fruit? Should we use it? Should we sell it? I don't suppose you fancy making me immortal." That's so funny. It's funny, too, that he knows that the Op fruit can do that. Because I thought that was very hidden information. But since it's Devil Fruit associated, it makes sense that Blackbeard would know that. It does make sense. We see a very big silhouette, and it says, "Keep your paws off my captain." BEPO goes Sulong, baby. Full cocaine bear. Good lord, he's huge. This is so cool because BEPO was the first mink that we ever saw in the story. And I have to make note of this. BEPO is fast enough to catch both Teach and Van Auger off guard. Van Auger, the teleporting warp man, was caught off guard. Mind you, Van Auger was able to outrun Ace back in the pre-time skip. So he caught both of these guys off guard. BEPO has scared off a Yonko at this point. He is real. That color spread of all these second in command guys throughout the story was not a joke. This is amazing. Go, BEPO, go. Oh, it's so cool. Yes. Also, I want to say this. Shout out to a moderator on my Discord, the Digital Burrow. KMDP, because I remember like years ago we were talking about this. We were talking about this in regards to Carrot, though, that Chomper could make a medicine that activates Sulong. And I've heard that conversation over the years too from other people. But shout out to KMDP because I talked about it with him first. So yeah, this is cool. Shout out to you, bro, because you predicted this would happen. This is very interesting. Which it does make some sense because Sulong is a biological occurrence and Chomper is an animal and he is a doctor. So even though it's not a zone related thing, it does make sense that he would be able to make a medicine that could activate this. Why this wasn't President in Wano, I do not know, because it really would have set the stakes for BEPO during Roof Piece. But we have it now, and it's amazing. Full cocaine bear BEPO. It's sick. It's very sick. So he manages to snag Law and escape, and then the Blackbeard pirates are like, how did he go Sulong? There's no moon. So they know about the moon too, which is weird. They know about the moon thing too, because I say it's weird because I thought way back in the day when Wanda brought it up, this was not well-known information, but I guess it makes more sense for Blackbeard to know, because he is a more informed character. I will say when Jinbei said it back in the day when Carrot first did it, it didn't make any sense to me because it didn't make sense for Jinbei to be that informed. It just didn't. But okay, I can believe Blackbeard is that informed because he's got like a small intelligence network going around. He always seems to be in the know about certain things, though he does seem ignorant about a lot of other things, which makes his information basis more believable. So yeah, it's not too outlandish. It's not outlandish. But yeah, BEPO escapes with Law. Law's like, oh, we can't leave the rest of the guys behind. And BEPO's like, no, we gotta bail. They'll be okay. They've lived through the harshness of the North Blue. They'll be fine. And that's the end of our chapter. The Heart Pirates have been decimated. Whoa, this is cool. I know so many people that have wanted Sulong BEPO for so long, and we got it, and it was amazing. Oh, it's so good. It's so good. The first Mink in the story has now turned Sulong. Good chapter. Good chapter. Okay, I've said this several times before, but we are on break for Golden Week next week. For real, for real. I've been wrong so many times about that, but no, we're on Golden Week break next week. So yeah, no chapter next week, but this was fantastic. More videos to come, and thank you all for watching. If you like stuff like this, please feel free to check out my YouTube channel, PolipedeWorks. And if you like what you see, I would appreciate your subscription. Thank you so much. See you next time.